Hello there, outliers. Niiamah is Sean here, and thank you so much for letting us be a part of your journey. We have an incredible roundtable set up for you because we get to talk to Debbi-Jo Horton. And Debbi-Jo, let me just say firstly, thank you for making the time for this. Thank you for bringing you and your experience to the table. We're really, really glad to have you here today.
I am more than happy to do so. And thank you so very much for reaching out.
Yeah, most certainly. Like Debbi-Jo, I want to give us a chance to get to know you. Do you mind sharing more about you and the game you're currently playing?
Absolutely. So I am always been an outlier. And the game I'm playing right now is that as a CPA and in the business for a very long time, I am changing the industry. So I came out of retirement because there is a lot of things that need to change in this industry. And I decided that I am the conduit to make it happen.
See, there's so many awesome things in just this introduction here, right? Coming out of retirement, changing the industry, and then you deciding that you are the conduit. Like those four elements there, they give me just a chance to just see, like, okay, this what a powerhouse of a person that we're talking to right here, right? Um, so Debbi-Jo, in this conversation, I want to explore a couple of different things with you. I want to explore like how you are approaching changing the industry, right? And not just in like in terms of like what it means for you, but like how you're building your team, how you're like you like structure your business and so on with that. As well as to understand like what does it take as it from a internal perspective to like to choose to do this. Are you good to have that kind of a conversation today?
Absolutely. Yep.
All right, cool. So I'm going to start here with I think I'm just going to be in flow with you, but like there's some element here of like you came out of retirement. Like one, kudos on the like get into retirement part, but then like the like something pulled you back in. Why was this so important to you that like you could have just kept chilling, but instead you decided to come back in the game? Why was this so important to you?
Yeah, well, to give you a little background, I've been an entrepreneur all of my life. At the age of 2, I started selling painted rocks by the side of the road well before pet rocks were a thing. So I've always been into multiple different things. So I'm not your typical CPA. In fact, most people, when they first get to know me, if it's not through the business, they do not believe that I'm a CPA. I have to show my license to say, no, 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 seriously, I I can deal with the numbers, but I love the people. So to me, it was well, now it's probably coming up on 7 years ago that I decided to sell my textbook of business and go into retirement for a number of reasons. But during the entire time, I also had another actually two businesses, down to one more business other than the CPA practice. And I was always networking with people, and I would get comments like, so I know you're not in the business anymore, but is it normal for your accountant not to get back to you? Like, like in how long? I'm thinking minutes, hours, maybe days, months. No, that is not normal. And then I actually had a good dear friend of mine say, I know you're not in the business anymore. This was in November. And she said, my bookkeeper not only is not getting back to me, but she hasn't done my book since the prior December. And this business owner had more than tripled the size of her business. And I said, girlfriend, how on earth are you making those decisions when you have no financials? And she said, well, that's the thing. Like I look at my banks, my online banking, and I try to estimate like what might I have coming in, what might be outstanding, and I'm trying to make decisions. I'm like, that's like flying by the seat of your pants. Now, I understand that can get you pretty far, but when you're talking about tripling the size of your business and hiring people and all of that, you really need to have better information. I said, reach out to your CPA. And she goes, well, that's the thing. She works for my CPA. I said, oh, she said, not only that, I wanted to ask you if you'd be willing to take a look at my return. Again, I understand you're not in the business anymore. If you say no, it's fine. And I said, why? What's going on? And she said, well, I always give her my information as early as possible, and they do the book, so they should have it like really early. She had it. Um, by the middle of February. And on April 15th, she presented at like 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon her tax return. And she said, I'm looking at it. And there was some things that just didn't make sense to me. And I asked her the questions that I had. And I said, what was her answer? And she said, and I quote, the answer she gave me was, I'm the expert, sign the return. I said, I hope you did not. She was like, unfortunately, I did. And I still don't have the answers to my questions. So I looked at her return, and sure enough, there were things on her return that I even asked. I'm like, what the heck is this? Why is there goodwill? You started your business, you didn't buy a business. Like, why is there a covenant not to compete? Like, compete with who? Like, who did you pay to not compete with you? And she said, well, I don't, that's what I don't understand. I'm like, okay. So I decided in January of 24 to restart, come out. And I said, but I'm going to do it totally different. So, one, communication, both internally and externally, is just as important as ethics and accuracy.
So communication is just as internally and externally just as important. You
Just
go.
as important.
What else? What else are you building this business on now?
Well, so a lot of people are not coming into the practice anymore because one, lack of communication, not understanding what's expected of them, other than working anywhere from 40 to 100 hours a week, especially during tax season, or if you're an auditor during your heavy season. And it's not necessary. Even when I was at the peak of my practice before, we did not work overtime during tax season because I don't know about you, but I do not want someone preparing my tax return after they've been at work for 10 hours because you know they're going to make a mistake because they're tired. They just want to get through the day. They're going to push it out as quickly as possible. And you're not getting all the tax advantages. They're not asking you, if there's information that, might have been on last year's return that you haven't given them this year. They're making the assumption that you don't have that anymore instead of asking you, hey, did you forget to give this to me? Or are you just like done with that? Did you close that account or close that business or whatever it happens to be? People aren't, they're not really taking note of what they're working on. They're just trying to get through the day. And in the back of their mind, they're already thinking about all the things that they missed out on with their family, um, the potential stress they're going to walk into because they weren't there for dinner again tonight. So I wanted to make sure that I was eliminating that. But on the flip side, on the client side, I want clients to not only have all of their questions answered, but have a better idea of the fact they probably don't even know what questions to be asking.
You know, there, as you're saying this here, what's coming to my mind, Debbie-Jo, is like, uh, I'm like, oh, you came in and you created like a better offer, right? A better offer of employment, a better offer of a career, a better offer of like going home and like feeling good about what you did, right? And what I like, I'm hearing, and you talk about internally and externally with the communication. I'm also hearing it right here, where it's like, all right, internally for my team, what are the things that like most other people take for granted and have as part of like the friction or the cost? Like, okay, it's busy season. You just have to work overtime, as opposed to like you don't need to work overtime. Like there's ways to construct and do the business and get like have a relationship with your clients such that like everyone is good, even during the busiest time. And then if I hear you're also taking on the client side of things and saying, okay, what were the roadblocks, the pain points, and all that stuff, and how do we just keep eliminating those things for you, and then replacing it, if anything, with something that actually would be beneficial or feel great or something else like that. Um,
Right.
like I hear this and it's cool to me because it's like I've spent a lot of my time thinking about like how do we actually like construct offers, and a lot of times I'll be thinking about it client facing, but when I'm talking to
Mhm.
you I'm like, oh, you also created it so that it's like team facing as well. It's like this is an
Right.
organization I would want to be a part of.
Right. Right. Yes, and it's kind of funny because, like, to me, I also have a background in global organizational leadership, so culture is like so important to me. And think, if you have you ever built anything, you need a strong, solid foundation. To me, that's what culture is. It's that foundation. It's that foundation of respect. It's a foundation of understanding. It's a foundation of knowing exactly what you need to contribute and what you're going to get in return for that. And it's that strong foundation that you then build the relationships and the business and the the relationships both internally but also externally, and looking at the community around you, what you can do to make an impact positively, because some people make impacts but not in a positive
I
way.
love I love that distinction. Allies, did you get that distinction there? Like what I heard here is like and Debbie Joe, like one of the things that's come to me is so you said making an impact positively, right? You gave it direction. And I think that like this here outline is part of why, like, yes, I love the positive elements of it all, but what I also get is that you are a person who has a lot of distinction. You get and you also get the power of your words and what it is that you are creating, right? And like and what I feel from you, Debbie Joe, and like as part of your leadership is that like you don't just take the status quo. You don't just like lean into what everyone else says, kind of colloquial. I want to make an impact. It's like like there's a lot of ways of making an impact, and not all of them are good ways. Not
Right.
all of them lead to something positive there. And so if you're gonna do it, if you're gonna be intentional. You know,
Mhm.
my
Yeah.
my slogan for this whole thing is "Be you on purpose."
Yeah. And
And
that's
it all ties
exactly where
in.
it needs to start, right? You need to make the changes. You
Mhm.
can't change anything around you until you change everything inside you.
Keep
So
going.
for those who didn't get that, that means that if you want something different, you must be different all the way through. Like, find in your heart of hearts what it is that you want to accomplish and what you need to change about yourself in order to be that person that you want to lead that change. So it's not easy. I will never say that it's easy. When I restarted this business, I was it was exciting and nauseating at the same time,
Mm,
because I knew that I was going to get some pushback, because when things sound too good, most people think they can't be real. And it's interesting because when I talk about what it means to work for my firm, anyone who's not in the accounting field go like, "Ah, I want to be an accountant. I want to come work for you." But yet when I talk to another accountant or a CPA, they go, "Well, that would be nice if it were possible."
mm, mm, mm.
And I'm like, yeah. So
Yeah.
you need to work on yourself a lot before you would fit into the culture of my organization.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So a couple of things that just keep running through. One, Debbie Jo, we are like more aligned than I would have expected. I did not do, I'm not a CPA, but I spent several years working as an actuarial consultant. And so like when you're talking about auditing, when you're talking
So
I'm like,
you
I
get
get it. I get it.
it.
Right. And you said earlier, you're like, look, I know how to do the math, but I'm a people person,
Yes.
And shortly afterwards, when I left the actuarial world, I went to go work at a tech company doing learning and development and employee experience. So all culture. Like it was like so you're talking to someone who like I'm like, yep, yep, yep. And I can also hear the component of like logical thinking. This is what I've seen. This is what the evidence has shown. This like over and over again. This is what it is. And what I'm hearing from you is yeah, you're like, oh, hold on. Before we even get anywhere, like you have to, I'm going to even put it in like kind of a math term, but it's like your account on belief right now is like overdrawn. And you have to do the work to fill that back up by working on yourself. And then once you come in with a positive account, then we have a chance that you can come and work in this space here. But right now, you don't know it. You just think that like this is how it has to be. And you haven't
Yeah.
taken that all in.
Yeah. I'm laughing so much because just this morning I was in a meeting and when I came in, they were having this discussion about whether or not the half is the glass is half full or the glass is half empty. And they looked at me and they said, "So which side are you on?" I'm like, "You're both wrong. The glass is refillable."
Mhm.
And it was just like silence. Like,
Yeah.
what difference does it make if it's half full or half empty? You can refill it.
Yeah.
And that's like what you need to do for yourself is like, if you don't like the way that things are, and you have to, first off, understand that you're a part of that problem because you're allowing it to happen or you're contributing in some way, even if it is just that you're allowing it to happen rather than changing it, leaving, going to someplace else. And so often I hear, well, I didn't have a choice. You always have a choice. Not taking action is still a choice.
This is one of the reasons why, like, when you started out this whole thing, you talk about like just as you're talking about the game you're playing, you're like, I made the decision to come out of retirement, right?
Yeah.
Like you live in choice. And I want to kind of put that into context here because allies, use the words you live in choice. So like that might be like a bit ethereal to some here. But what I mean here is that like what I'm getting about you, Debbie-Jo, is that you see moments in your in life and you like you recognize that like there are choices that you can make, either continue down that path or choose something different. And sometimes doing that, like depending on that choice, it's going to require something of you. You got to give up retirement in this case. Let's say that,
Yeah.
right? It's gonna there's a consequence to it, but also with that choice, it keeps you in power toward creating what you want. I would love to get your thoughts here around choice because I think there's as outliers we've done a lot, but sometimes like the world helps us forget that like wait a minute,
Mm.
we are actually in choice. You mind speaking to that at all?
Yeah. Yeah. Ooh, there's so many different ways you could go with that one. So let's just kind of keep it on the theme of what we've been talking about in terms of I am, not I want, I will change this industry. And so that's the choice that I've made rather than stay in retirement. I made the choice of before I even got really started that I would build, and I'm for those of you who know business entity structure, I am a sole practitioner, though I have 5 people who work for me. But I'm not an LLC. I will be as of the first of the year. I'll be an S corp. Um, but see, again, that was a choice because I'm also choosing at the same time to create a legacy company for my family. So, in order to do that, I will become an S corp and be able to put it into a family trust. But that also leaves me the opportunity to, if there are like-minded CPAs who have uh, differing expertise. I'm all about tax audit. Nope, nope, totally not me. Do we offer audit right now? Nope, because I haven't found the right person who will lead that piece of the business. And I don't expect that person who's going to lead and grow an entire piece of a business to just do it as an employee. They will become part owner. So those are choices that I've had to make. And on the outside in the business sense of things, but on inside, like I had to make the choice that I will be one, vulnerable, two, I will be open to the potential to be wrong. And I put it all on the line by financing all of this myself. So those were all choices that I had to make in order to fulfill the vision that I have of changing this industry. So I think that every moment, every day, we're making choices, whether we're conscious about it or not, we're making those choices. How we spend that time. I mean, you can take it all the way basic. Like, do I eat the French fries or do I eat the salad? In the moment, it probably doesn't matter, but in the long term, it is definitely going to matter. Like my heart is gonna thank me, even though my taste buds might not, and eating that salad versus the French fries. But I'm making the choice to be healthy. And people think that, well, it's, no one's gonna know if I'm eating by myself. But that's what makes people successful. It's doing the little things right in that moment where nobody else is watching but you. And you make the decision to be your best self.
I hear this, and two things come to mind. One of them is like just the word integrity shows up here. And along those lines of like how you do anything is how you do everything, you
Yeah,
know. And That's one part that comes in. And then the other part is that I've heard somewhere it's like you can't really know like any kind of quality you might think about yourself. You don't really get to know if it is yours until it is tested. You can be loyal, you can be healthy on in certain ways, but like when it's you alone, no one's gonna find out, and so on and so forth. How do you show up? Right. And
hmm,
that's where the integrity part comes for me, Debbie Jo, when you say this, where I'm like who you say you are on the outside and how you show up on the inside, even when it doesn't matter, like you recognize that it still matters and you live in alignment with that. Uh,
yeah,
it's also taken me to this element of choice. I think choice is really, really fun because two things. I feel like every time we make a choice, it ends up it changes our direction a bit, right? It gives us a different experience, it gives us a different path, but it's like, the choice of doing nothing, which is a choice to stay on the same path, or the choice of doing something else, which is
right,
something diverges, right? And one of the things that I like that was coming to me was I'm like, oh, like without having to go into it right now, but I'm like, Debbie Jo probably made choices that seemed really small earlier in her life and career that got her to the point where she's like, I can be both CPA and we can have like this incredibly enriching experience together. Like I don't have to like the whole weight of the industry of every other CPA I meet does not have to be my experience. And it's like it feels like there's a choice muscle that has given you a certain set of experiences for you to be like, I know that this is possible. I've lived it. And if we're not
yeah,
even at the starting point of is it possible, there's no place for us to go.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 for sure. It's like my mind is flooding with so many different
Yeah, yeah.
thoughts here right now.
That happens in conversations here with you. So like, yeah,
Yeah.
you're right in a good space.
So the thing I always found interesting in this kind of like memory popped up when you were saying that was, I don't know how many networking groups or learning groups that I've been in where they've had everybody around the room say one thing they would change about themselves. What choice would they make? If they could only choose one thing, what would it be? And I can remember hearing like all these different things from people. And when it came to me, like without even really giving it any thought, because I was like in the moment listening intently on everything that people were saying. And I can remember thinking, how sad, how sad. When it was my turn, I said I wouldn't change a thing. I love who I am. And all the choices, right and wrong, made me who I am today. I wouldn't choose anything. So we all have choices. Make the most of them. Like failing isn't a bad thing unless you give up. If you don't get back up, then it's a bad thing.
you know, there we go. It's really fun talking to you because like you say things and then it brings up different elements inside of me, right? And so I'm like, when you said that, it brings up this. When you say this, and I recognize that's how this conversation is going for me today. What's playing out for me as you're saying that is that the word ownership comes in, right?
Mm,
Um, and,
yeah.
and what it feels to me is like a part of you like owns every choice that you've made, regardless of the consequence, good or bad. You're like, but I made that choice and it's given me here, got me to here, And I think that this kind of feels like it's coming through generally in some of the things you've said. So let me like calibrate me if it feels off. But I feel like you, you're someone who really like leans into ownership. Like it is like how I show up. I can change how I'm showing up. I can change an entire industry. Um, I don't feel that you step into victimhood, right? You get to own your reality and change things from there. Go ahead, please calibrate me.
So I used to.
Don't tell us about that. Tell us about it, because
I used to.
yeah,
When I was younger and I didn't know any better, I did lean into being the victim because, everybody said, oh, well, you should, blah, 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 blah. And that's what I did. And then was victimized even more by that. And I made the choice, see, again, comes back to choice, that I'm not going to allow that anymore. And I don't blame those people. They did what they did for the most part out of love, thinking that they were helping me rather than hurting me. And they, just as everybody, they did the best they could with the information that they had. But it was in those moments that I realized that I allowed that to happen. Nobody can make you feel insignificant unless you allow it. So it was in that I decided, and not necessarily, there was a pivotal moment that I won't get into. It's very private, but it wasn't, I didn't make the choice to change for my benefit, but for my young daughter's benefit. So sometimes we have to decide what are our non-negotiables. And it can be as easy as what has to go into my calendar for me first and foremost before anything else. I mean, that's the easiest stuff. Or what is it that I'm going to allow in my relationships, personal or business, versus what I'm not. And, going back to ethics, like, I am not going to jail for anybody, not for myself, not for anybody else. And if you are the type of person or the type of business that wants to more than push the envelope, but actually know that you're doing things that are not legal, I'm not the right CPA and you're not working with my firm.
Mhm.
I don't care how many millions of dollars you might have. It's not worth, the only thing you really truly own is your reputation. And you are 100% responsible for that reputation, nobody else. And once you lose it, it is very hard to get it back, if ever. So I was never, ever, ever going to allow that to happen. And I think that I would have to say that my grandfather really instilled that in me. Two things. He instilled that, and he also instilled that you can be and do anything you choose to. You just have to believe that it's possible. And I've lived my entire life that way. Like, do I think it's going to happen? Probably not. But is it possible? Absolutely. And because of that belief that it's possible, the likelihood that I will change an industry is almost inevitable because it's possible. So you have to decide on what it is that you are going to believe. Are you going to believe that it's possible and you can do anything that you set your mind to? Or are you going to let somebody else tell you what your worth is? And that's really what it comes down to, the value you put on yourself.
I'm loving this. I'm giving it some time to space, to giving it time and space right now. Outliers like check in, right? Debbi-Jo has been really gracious by giving us like a place to check in on what really matters and how we can build from that the other things that we want to build, right? I'm hearing you in reputation, in ownership, in making the choices for you, being able to go deeper inside of you and being in alignment. I hear you in the appreciation and recognition of the wisdom and lessons that you've learned. I think about it here because there's things that you say that like if we're listening, like they're clues that like I'm like, oh, how does she create this? Right? Some clues. Debbi-Jo's living her life. I'm imagining hanging out at the grocery store and someone's like, oh, it's good to see you, Debbi-Jo. It's good to see you. So I know you're not really doing this anymore, but like that's reputation, right? That's
It's
like
not just reputation. I think it was a little push from the universe.
push
You're
from the
not done
universe.
yet.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So let's add that into it, right? You saw the nudges, right? And you like you didn't ignore it. You went through it, I also like I love the fact that you said like hey, let me just slow this down here. Like, I used to be a victim. I used to show up in my victimhood, and I think that that's really important because I know there's at least one outlier out there that's like, well, if only, right? If only I had that level of choice. If only things were like, I'm like, hear it now, hear it plainly. Like, Debbie-Jo is saying, like, this was not always me. The person you're experiencing was not always me, and I started to make different choices that brought me to this point, such that the person you experience now gets a chance to like so effortlessly exist. Not to say that it doesn't come at cost to you,
Right.
but like what I get is that it's easier for you to be in ownership, leadership, and in choice than it is for you to like step into victimhood again. It's like that part I feel is like that just there's like a cognitive dissonance. It's like, oh wait, hold on,
Yeah.
sorry. Like I just
Yeah.
don't do that.
Done with that. Don't need to
Yeah.
be there anymore.
Yeah.
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 But and I think too that it really depends on just how much value you put on yourself, right?
Mm.
People are only going to treat you the way they see you treat yourself normally, not the people that are like always wanting to take advantage. But so I, I think that, and even now, I mean, there are times when someone will say something or do something, and I go, what made them think that they could say or do that? What message did I send, and how did I send that? Or am I just the conduit to help them grow? So you don't have to take ownership for what other people are doing, but you do need to take ownership of the portion that you play, right? So sometimes we're not always the person that is supposed to be on the one side or the other, but sometimes we're the conduit for someone else's growth. And I see that, and that's what I'm trying to make people aware of, is that the accounting industry has allowed there to be burnout, no such thing as work life balance, like, but it doesn't have to be that way. And a lot of people say, well, yeah, but then you wouldn't make any money. My gross profit margin is more than double what everybody else's is. And I'm not just saying that and pulling numbers out of the air. I've actually done my research.
Yeah. Yeah. I we trust you. You know, we trust you on that. But this is it. Like, it's an interesting way that we have conversations where it's like, hey, like we're just getting to know you, but we trust that, you know, and it's because it's an ongoing track record of showing up in integrity, an ongoing track record of saying like I'm like people talk about authenticity, and usually whenever authenticity comes into the conversation with me, I'm like, so what's the cost that you paid for your authenticity, right? And like I can tell the real ones versus the ones that like versus the bumper stickers, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so we're hearing in this conversation that like there's been cost. Like you volunteered that, hey, by the way, you could come on this podcast and be like, I'm building this amazing thing. I have this way of looking at it, so on and so forth. Yes, I'm totally in my ownership of my choices. I'm amazing. And you're like, let me volunteer the actual truth. The who you see is not how I always was. Right. And it's with that element there that like there's a trust factor in there. And we talked earlier about reputation, and we talked about the universe nudging. Like I know a lot of people who want to build like word of mouth businesses, right? Like this is it. This is what it looks like. It's like
It
I'm not even in the
is.
game and they're trying to pull me back in. And they're like everyone's trying to do it. They're all like I bet you can see you're like, oh, this person has a tax question. Okay, let's go. Let's come in. Because but like I get what I get about you, and this is what I think. Like, I love culture, and I love talking to outliers in particular who are founders, are business owners, and they're business leaders. And I've had a hard time like trying to like make the distinction. Like, should I just talk to entrepreneurs? Should I just talk to business leaders? I'm like, but the real outliers are leading their businesses. It's not
Mm.
just they go hand in hand, right?
Yeah, they do. It doesn't happen by accident.
No, not at all. This like it's and what part of what I get is that like I've been in the culture game for a long time, right? Like even when I coach, I'm only doing an internal culture. I was a culture of one. I'm like what is it here? And what I experienced from you is like your culture. is, and you talk about the business, this business being a legacy business for, and so what I'm feeling from you is that like this culture that you're creating is actually based on the values that you have, right? And the culture is like, here goes the game. This is how Debbie Jo does things. And now we're gonna like take the time to make sure we infuse it into an organization that can continue to perpetuate this, continue to grow, and continue to make choices with this underlying set of like core rules, core guidelines that
Right,
establish. And those core guidelines are what we call culture. It's how we do things. Do
right.
we take ownership? We can take ownership of the role we play. We can't take ownership of what they do, but we can take
Mhm.
ownership of the role we choose to play. I cannot stop you from trying to like make all these fudges and things happen in your bank account. I can take ownership of the role I play as to say, do I want to be a participant in that or not? Like
Right.
there's a lot that comes through on Debbi Jo. What am I seeing? What like how would you classify it? It's really stimulating to me. So I want to get your thoughts on this, and then we'll start wrapping for today.
So, so many different directions you can take with that.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of you were talking about the culture, and honestly, I think that your culture is built, the culture really is your foundation, but that foundation is built on some pretty important pieces, and that's your values. So the owner, the outlier, needs to instill their values in the culture that they're looking to support, because otherwise it doesn't feel true. It feels that there's a disconnect. And through that, through those values, you'll create a philosophy that if you're communicating with not just whoever's working for you, but who you're serving and the community around you, then that philosophy is just going to strengthen that foundation, that culture. And it's interesting that you said that, because it hadn't even like crossed my mind until you made that statement, and I went, oh. So when I decided to step back into the accounting world, 2/3 of my former clients who I hadn't done work for 6 years came back
Mm,
and
mm,
said, please, will you take me back? And they brought others. So quick before we wrap up, because it's never easy, but it is about the choices that we make. I opened my practice the second week of January in 2024. In the first week of February, my mother was rushed to the hospital.
mm.
And then she went back and forth, and she passed away on June 30th. But she was one of my biggest cheerleaders, my biggest support. And sorry if I'm getting emotional, but you'll deal with it, because I have had to deal with it. You need to do what you know is right, and the timing and everything else will magically appear. So, through all of that, right up until the day that she no longer could speak, I don't know how many times she said, I am so proud of you. I don't know how it is that you're doing the things that you're doing, but I know you're going to make a huge impact, because you've made a huge impact on me. So, even with all that going on, I had an incredible year in terms of my business. And then, and it was just me and one, when I say part time, I mean 10 hours a week person who just did social media stuff. On January 1st of 2025, that part-time person became a full-time person. On the 27th, I hired my first full-time staff accountant. On March 3rd, I hired admin for my admin, who ended up also having an HR background. So she is now my human resource administrator. I hired another part-time staff accountant who did not fit in my culture. So we parted ways. And it was interesting, because when I called him to let him know that I didn't think it was going to work, he told me all the reasons why I should fire him. I was
Mhm,
like, people know if they don't fit, they know. They
mhm.
know. You don't always have to tell them. And I've now hired two other people On March 16th, I had surpassed my entire income for all of 24.
Mm,
And I'm on track to about 5 times that. But I'm stretching. I went 10 times.
yeah. Yeah.
I just need the people to do it because I have a wait list. Not a bad thing.
No,
Makes me a little nervous. What
why
doesn't
nervous?
excite you and make you nauseous isn't worth
Yeah.
going after.
Yeah. And like, part of what like, oh, I love this for you, by the way, Debbi-Jo. Do you mind if I just celebrate you like here? I celebrate a career of celebrate a career of showing up above and beyond, and having that be your standard. I celebrate you in a space where, as you were talking, many things kept coming to mind, but there was a thing that kept coming. It's like you get what you tolerate in life. And I
Mm,
I celebrate you not tolerating anything less than where your standard was. Um, I love the 5X, it like already 5X for the year. And like with you're like, and there's more, and there's more. And what I also get in the waitlist part, like like I don't know if it's two words or one word, one compound word together, whatever it is, right? That also signals something really important to me. And it signals the like underneath it, it's like, how do you get a waitlist? Yes, you have more demand than you can handle, right? But it's not that there aren't like people who can do the job, right? What I hear is like, it's like you could increase the number of X's by just hiring other people in the short term. But the real way for you to get through from 5X to 10X is to continue to hire the appropriate people who fit the culture, who are willing to play the game the way that you're choosing to play. And it is worth you not hiring. There's CPAs out there. Like you can get it, you can get people to do the work. That's not the problem. It's the alignment. And I think that
yeah.
like it's that element right there when you talked about when no one's looking. Like
Yeah.
you can go on a cash grab right now. You have more work than you can handle. But you're not. You're choosing to bring on the right people so that you can continue to serve your clients at the highest level of integrity and skill that you know is available because you know what is possible. And I like it just like you just said the word weightless, and I was like, and this is how we know what she says is true because she could have more and she chooses to hold her standard.
Thank you for recognizing that.
I see you, Debbi-Jo. Thank you for playing the way that you play. It's really quite incredible. It's really quite. I feel very happy that we're in space together here. You know,
As do I.
We're going to wrap up our conversation here. Outliers, this is a powerful conversation. I'm going to ask you to share this. Like, you can share it on your socials, but I'm really going to ask you to share it with one person who, like, really needed to hear this conversation today. There's something I have here around, like, let's spread the word overall, but there's something we call the one person, one conversation at a time initiative. And this is the thing that I can see this conversation being shared 30 years into the future, right? Because, like, it's always going to reach the right person when they need to get it. If we just play this game, that's my faith that I have in here. That this is a conversation that will continue to beget other conversations. So thank you, Debbi-Jo, for like not holding back, for showing us what it's like here to play the way that you play. We're gonna end with
And you
two
know why that
questions.
is?
Why is
Let me
this?
just let wrap that up nicely for you. You can never say the wrong thing to the right person, but you can also never say the right thing to the wrong person. So those who will need to hear it will hear it.
That's it. That's it. I love that. That feels good. I might have to bring that in. I'm internalizing that as we speak. So we're going to end with two questions. The first question here is how can outliers go deeper down the journey with you? Anyone that wants to reach out with you, you have a wait list, but like if anyone else that wants to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to do that? And then the second thing here, and this is important, we're going to shift the gears. We're not here for the outliers anymore. Now like every conversation I have is one that should change the world. And so I'd love to hear from you. Like, what's a takeaway? What's an insight that you're taking from this conversation, if any, here? So, one, how the outliers go deeper down the journey with you. And two, what's an insight or a takeaway that you have as a result of this conversation? And we'll wrap for today.
Okay, so I think that one ask would be that if you know someone who that would fit in that culture of honesty and integrity and wants to be a part of changing the industry, that they should reach out to me at djhortonassociates.com. And two is, I think the one thing that I'm going to really take away, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart, from all of my soul, is that this week, you did not know this week has been extremely difficult because the workload has been heavier than I thought any of us could handle. Because of the culture, my staff showed up in ways I never would have asked them to show up. And I struggled with do I just hire someone to fill the void, or do I just keep believing that the right people will show up at the right time? And I made the decision to not hire the person that I could have, because I truly do not believe that they're the right fit. And this conversation just solidified that for me.
I love how the universe tends to nudge us as it goes along.
Yes.
Well, Debbie,
And
I really appreciate it.
that
Yeah,
answered the prayer last night, that I was like, please show me some clarity. Thank
yeah,
you for being the
yeah,
vehicle of that.
yeah. We got this. We got this. Thank you for showing up in such a way that like you pulled this out of me. Like that was just really wonderful. Allies, we're gonna end our conversation here. Remember this. Until the next time we talk, be you on purpose. Journey on.